Alright everybody, Take Five Garage. This is going to be the second video in this little getting to know your 944 series that I'm doing. And this time let's talk about the timing belts. Now, Porsche's service interval for the timing belts, people say, they have different theories, and there's stuff all over the internet where people say you don't need to worry about it, or you need to do it exactly at 30,000 miles or 45,000 miles. The Porsche service manuals and the actual owner's manuals, there's two different intervals that I've seen depending on whether it's a later car like an S or something like that, and it is 30,000 miles or 45,000 miles. My rule of thumb, if you're in a hot climate like me, where the rubber doesn't live up, rubber degrades a lot easier in warmer temperatures and you drive your car a lot, I recommend doing it every 30,000 miles. Now, your water pump, I recommend doing every other belt job. If you get in there to do your timing belt and you have a record of when the last time the water pump was replaced, and it's right around 30,000 miles, or let's say 3 or 4 years, and it's not leaking, then I would just worry about the belts. And the next time you do your belts, that's when I would replace that water pump. So let's talk about cost. The average rate between an indie shop, you're probably going to be looking about $1,700 for your timing belt job. Now that's because they are replacing both the cam belt, the balance belt, and for that price they should also be replacing your water pump gasket, your front main seal, the seals for the balance shaft rollers, the idlers, and the tensioner. So that $1,700 gets you a front end engine reseal on the cam, a brand new water pump, new coolant, and all of those, both the belts and the rollers and tensioners all replaced. If you take it to your local dealership, you're probably looking at about maybe, I don't know, I want to say, let's say, well over $2,000. So maybe like $2,300 or $2,400. You can bring that price down if you choose to purchase a kit and just have them install it. That all depends. You can take my past experiences to maybe why you shouldn't do that. What I would recommend if I had to do it all over again, I would at least see if if the dealer will allow you to go with an aftermarket kit, and see if they will let you, if you ask them, hey, talk to them and say, look, if I let you guys charge me markup on these parts, can you provide me some sort of warranty so that way I don't get hosed on doing, that you'll have a warranty through whoever sold you the parts, but on the labor. Again, you just you have to, the only way that you're going to be able to know for sure is if you have experience with the shop and a long history with them. The third route that you can go for about $500 to $600 on average is going to be just ordering a kit and replacing it yourself. It is not a difficult job to do, just pay attention. I did my first timing belt job, and it was, now granted I didn't worry about doing the water pump and all that, but while you're in there it's really not that bad. You just need to have the correct tools. The first time you do the job on your own, if you get the correct tools, you can spend a ton of money on a belt tensioner and the specialty tools that you need to remove the pulleys and stuff like that. So you're probably looking at least at about $1,200 to do it on your own the first time, and recurring after that should be no more than about $500 or $600, and that's including a kit with a water pump. If you're just doing the belts by themselves and the rollers and the front main seal, you're probably looking at about $900. So that's really not that bad of a service. I mean, granted, the service interval is super short compared to, cars typically needing timing belt replacements at, at the very least like 70,000 miles or above. But you have to keep in mind that, yeah, it's old and technology has changed, but it is still a high performance sports car, so you need to properly maintain it like it's a high performance sports car. My experience is the more you do in preventative and just upkeep, the less you have to worry about overall. So if you want to have a car that's bulletproof, just get it done. And whichever way you get it done, as long as that you can trust the work and you're happy with it and satisfied, especially if it's your own work and you're comfortable being like, I know exactly what I did, and if something is screwed up, then I can get in there and fix it, then, you should be good to go. And quite honestly, it's so easy to do it on this car, and it gives you such a solid understanding of, okay, so this is how timing works, and these are these marks, and if everything lines up, then I should be good, and that's true for any car. Once you get comfortable doing it on this, there's no reason why you shouldn't be comfortable doing it on any other car. It's all the same principle. Just keep in mind where your timing marks are. References for all this information, you can use the factory service manuals if you have them. Those are great. I have a Haynes manual. It's good for just guiding you as you're going along. But I recommend Clark's Garage, different YouTube channels on here. Adredes has a fantastic tutorial on, just little nuances that you don't really think about. For example, rotating the cam gear a tooth so that the tension is there when you go to spin the engine over for the first time, picking up the slack out of the belt. Casey Putsch showed just how comfortable you can be with working on these cars so long as you pay attention. I hope I don't screw the name of the channel up, but NCER 944. I hope I didn't screw that up, or maybe it's NC 944ER. But he's also gone through and done an excellent job of just absolutely like tearing into every little nook and cranny in that car and bringing it up to spec to his standard. So that's really cool to see. So we've talked about costs, we talked about what's involved. Let's talk about where you can get these kits from. I went through ECS Tuning. I'm not going to order from them again. Now, the difference is, the brand of belt and stuff don't change. There's either Conatec, which is what I use. This is what most cars use. There's Gates, which is a $100 belt, but it's made out of Kevlar. More on that in a second. We'll talk about that. And then there's one other brand, I believe. My gut is to just go with Conatec for both the balance belt and the timing belt, the cam belt. It's what our VW uses. It's what the Mazda, I think, that we own, uses. So good experiences with them, and I know that the interval, as long as I keep up and maintain it, I'm always going to trust that 30,000 miles. So one question that I'd like to bring forward that I had was, these belts aren't 30 years old anymore. Why do we need to replace them every 30,000 miles? And some people will tell you, you don't. You run the risk, and that's really what it is. For me, the last belt on my car was done in 1999 on the 83 that I had. Right when the car was parked. And that belt was the better part of 20... actually, no. It was done in 97. This is the better part of... No. Oh my God, I keep screwing it up. It was done in 95. It was the better part of like 26 years old. And somehow it just was completely fine. I replaced it right at the 30,000 miles, so you can go give or take on whether or not you want to do it by age or by mileage. Now, when I got this car, it was the same kind of deal. The belt was only 10 years old. They were brand new with next to no miles on them, and the car had been sitting in climate-controlled environments. But the reason why I say, even though if the belt looks good, once you pull that belt out and you can hold it in your hands, you can physically feel how stiff the rubber is compared to a brand new belt. So I always recommend, just if you don't have an absolute date on when the last time the belts were done, and it's over 4 years old, or it's right at the 30,000 mile marker, just do it. Don't even question it. If it hasn't been done and you don't want to spend the money on it, then look for a different car. It's that serious, because I have read so many anecdotes about these belts snapping right at 30,000 miles, whether it's the Kinetic belt, even the Gates belts, which are Kevlar reinforced. You think you wouldn't have to worry about it. They're meant for racing. It's just the stresses, they're designed to be replaced at that interval for a reason. So unless you have an engineering degree and you feel the need to take it up with the engineers who designed it, you can call up the whoever ran the patents from Mitsubishi on the whole balance belt thing and balance shaft thing. So that's just kind of my rule of thumb. Now let's talk about maintaining your belts, because there is actually one thing that gets overlooked, and it's probably one reason why a lot of these belts might snap prematurely. They need to be retensioned after 1,500 miles of installation. So if it's a brand new belt, after 1,500 miles, anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500, get it in and get it tensioned. Or if you're doing it yourself and you have the tensioning tool, get in there and check the tension and make sure it's still within spec. It's just a tolerance thing. And these, like I said, it's a high performance engine. Tolerances are super tight. So just, it's better to not risk anything and get it done. That's what it takes to own one of these. So with all that out of the way, let's talk about tensioning, belt tensioning. You can do it by hand, and I know how to tension a belt by hand. I even did a tutorial on how to do it. It should be the same for almost any car, where you should just be able to grab the belt and rotate it at least 90 degrees. Now, what I found is when I took that principle and I applied it to the timing belt and the balance belt, the timing belt was okay, maybe a little bit loose, quite honestly, and the balance belt was way over tightened. The balance belt, and so here's where I struggle, and here's why I recommend just getting it. Even if you do the belt yourself, I was going to get into this, but even if you do the belt yourself, I would still probably get it into your local classic partner or an indie shop and just say, hey, tension them for me correctly. Because, even trying to do it by hand, 180 degrees, I would notice that there's either still a little bit of belt wind, or the belt was too loose and you can kind of hear a little bit of flapping around in there. So you don't want that to happen. It's not the end of the world if your balance belt goes. It's not going to harm the engine. It'll just shake like crazy. But that cam belt is critical, because this is an interference engine. So that cam belt goes, your valves are going to meet your pistons, and you don't want to get into that. So other than that, that's pretty much all you need to worry about. Just keep an eye on everything. Check 1,500 miles after that install, you're going to be looking at anywhere from $1,800 to $2,700 in labor and totals for all of the labor that's involved. It's about an 8-hour or 9-hour job. You can get it done in a weekend if you do it yourself, and if you feel comfortable and you want to learn, I highly encourage giving it a shot yourself. If you don't feel comfortable, then by all means, there's nothing wrong with trusting a professional to do it, so long as that professional is up to the standard that they claim to be. What else? Oh, kits. I think I glanced over that a little bit too quickly. So the kits that you can order, you can get them from ECS. I'll never be buying them again from there. Pelican parts, or even I believe like Suncoast Porsche might have a timing belt kit. And the kits are basically just all these same parts that you can order from anywhere, just assembled for you. And mine actually came with, they come with, I think, a gallon of coolant, or not a gallon of coolant. Maybe, it was about 5 quarts of coolant. I'm screwing it up, I don't remember. One of those jugs of freaking coolant, and it's the Porsche brand. Make sure that it should be the Porsche red coolant in there. If your car has green coolant in it, that is not correct. And it is probably going to be interfering with your metals in your radiator and eventually will give you a hard time down the road and can cause your water pump to fail prematurely. So the other part of that obviously is bleeding the cooling system and making sure that's done correctly if you replace your water pump. I recommend, if you're going to do your water pump at that time and you notice a little bit of milkshake in there, to pull off the oil cooler housing and get it done at that time. You're going to have the oil filter out of the way. You can drain the oil, drain the coolant, and reseal that, and everything is going to be out of your way. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So as long as you stay on top of that, your 944 will be happy and healthy. Now, a secondary point on the S cars, the dual overhead cam cars, they have auto tensioners, but where that auto tension is set, it's kind of the same deal. It doesn't really help you out. You need to check the tension on that tensioner, make sure it's set correctly, the spring rate. And just because your timing belt is auto tensioned and or that's actually the 924S, I think, has the auto tension on there. The dual overhead cam cars are chain driven, but up top is a pad tensioner that's made out of plastic, or I forget the exact material it's made out of, but it wears down over time. And the same thing with the timing belts. If you don't keep an eye on it and you don't replace that, it's a point of failure that will cause your pistons to meet your valves. So that's something to keep an eye on for the later cars. For the turbos, it's a little bit more expensive. I can't give you quotes because I've never owned a turbo. The quotes that I've given in this video are quotes that were directly given from me, both from my Classic Partner dealership and from my local indie shop, and from how much it cost me to do the 83 by myself. Again, so I did the belts on the 83 myself, and when that car got hit, I had just done all that. I didn't really feel like doing it all over again, and there were a few things that just needed buttoning up on this one, so I figured I would pay someone else to do it, just purely for the convenience. There's no reason why, if you're any sort of mechanically inclined, that you can't follow the tutorials, the plethora of information that's out there, and get it done yourself. So, bit of a longer video, but I think that is all the wisdom I have on the timing belts. So in the next video, I think I'm going to be just talking about different things like small maintenance items like your battery, your alternator, your power steering, your brake fluid, the air box, different things like that, just things that you should routinely be checking and how often. And then different things like the interior, maybe go through there and point a few things out about the gauges and all that kind of stuff from whatever I can accumulate. So yeah, I think that's everything I got. If there's any other questions that you might have about your timing belts, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And if there's enough information that I might have missed or glanced over too quickly in this video, then I'll definitely make a follow-up on this one. So that's getting to know your 944 part 2, your timing belts. Thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you in the next one.